right. Well, hello and welcome to EllieMD's Educational Series. We are so glad you're here with us to continue our mission to support healthier, longer lives through community, education, and innovative care. Tonight's session is an exciting one. Not only are we welcoming back a familiar face, but we're also introducing, should I say, the Thrill Pill, EllieMD's newest innovation designed to enhance intimacy, connection, and performance. Stay tuned for all the details. We're thrilled to be joined again by Dr. Josiah Wagner, a true pioneer in regenerative medicine, peptide therapy, and hormone optimization. His journey began at age 16 after a serious back injury. Instead of accepting a life of chronic pain, he turned to peptides, stem cells, and biohacking, igniting a lifelong passion to help others heal and thrive. Today, as Director of Clinicals for RX Reinvented, Dr. Wagner trains providers nationwide in advanced therapies for weight loss, anti-aging, and wellness, bridging traditional medicine with cutting-edge science. Dr. Wagner, welcome back. Welcome back. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you. Speaking of training, I just got some training on some more stem cells and exosomes today. So I'm literally at the clinic taking this call from another training.
Okay. Well, thank you for being able to join us despite your obligations elsewhere. So thank you for being here. And maybe you could touch on some of what you've learned. But for those of us joining us for the very first time, can you share what led you to this work and why peptides have become such a big and integral part of your mission and practice?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I suffered a pretty traumatic back injury at the age of 16 that left me in basically like chronic pain. I couldn't walk, stand, sit without feeling some sort of discomfort in my body. And that's like a light term. Like it was pretty bad. And I'd done a bunch of other therapies, been down the alternative rabbit hole, and I had success at being able to regenerate my body. But that took like years and years to finally like get some type of like wellness. And the last piece of that equation, after doing like lifestyle, diet, nutrition, supplementation, like PRP, ozone therapy, was the stem cell therapy. That really helped me kind of put that last piece together with everything that I was already doing in terms of the regeneration process. And I've just been able to help like so many other conditions besides like musculoskeletal conditions with the peptide therapy, everything from like weight loss to immune modulation to chronic disease to longevity to performance. And it just complements so many other things that are out there. And now I find myself teaching clinics and physicians on a daily basis about this medicine because it's just such a safe medicine. Because really, peptides, when you boil it down, like what are they and what makes them so effective and what makes them so safe? Peptides are signaling molecules, and they work by mimicking the body's natural processes, to whether that's regulating hormones, promoting healing, or optimize cellular function. So peptides enhance the body's natural ability to heal itself. And this is very different than conventional medicine because most pharmaceutical drugs are synthetic chemicals designed to like target a specific symptom or block a biological pathway. So they often act on like enzyme inhibitors, receptor blockers, or neurotransmitter modulators rather than working with the body's own natural intelligence. So when you work against that, the safety profile is dramatically different with these peptides versus conventional medicine. So,
Thank you for sharing that. Now, can you talk to us just briefly about how peptides play a role in overall wellness, especially when it comes to longevity?
so in terms of longevity, I'll hit on like the biggest thing that we're kind of like facing right now in the West. And overall, the biggest driver or thing that is affecting longevity is metabolic dysfunction. And what does that mean? It typically starts with insulin insensitivity. And with that insulin insensitivity, you're not able to properly bring glucose within the cell. So that ends up traveling throughout the bloodstream and causing all these other downstream effects: chronic inflammation, immune system downregulation. It's going to affect your mitochondria function. So it's really like this domino effect that we see. And so if we can use peptides to help with the metabolic dysfunction, which is why these GLPs are becoming so popular, because not only are they helping people lose the weight, which is actually like a side effect of what it's doing. It's not even like the primary mode of action. It's just that's what's getting people through the door to experience the peptides world. It's acting on so many other mechanisms, whether it's like the pancreas, the kidney, the liver, the brain. We can really start with a root cause approach and enhance longevity through just a lot of these peptide therapies.
Mm. Can you I want to touch on some of the peptides that we do offer, specifically Sermorelin. Can you share with everyone what Sermorelin is? And for anyone that's on GLP-1s, how can Sermorelin support their GLP-1 journey?
So Sermorelin falls into a group of category of peptides that I use pretty frequently. And so Sermorelin falls under the category of a growth hormone secretagogue. So, but what does that mean? Basically, what that means is it helps send a signal to the anterior pituitary gland up in the brain to start the production of growth hormone. And now growth hormone is actually considered one of the master hormones for your body. It's involved in like so many different processes, whether it's like antifibrotic, anti-inflammatory, it's going to help with immune modulation, and the list goes on and on and on because it like breaks down throughout your system. So growth hormone is super, super important because our body releases it on what's called as a pulsatile system. So we're getting small pulses throughout the day, and it's anywhere from, again, depends on anyone's physiology, anywhere from 4 to 8 pulses. And the amplitude of those pulses is different. So you get your highest pulse at night while you're sleeping and regenerating. And then you get little mini pulses throughout the day. So it acts very differently than most of the other hormones that we have. For example, like cortisol is like highest in the morning, kind of hits a peak at midday, drops, melatonin starts to replace that. So just the fact that we see that growth hormone is pulsed throughout the entire day, it's super, super important. Because if you were to wipe out all of your growth hormone, you would literally go blind. Like that's how important it is to regulating your system. Now, in terms of someone who's on a GLP, what happens is the GLP is regulating your body's appetite. So you're typically consuming less calories. And what happens is we're starting to lose overall body weight. But what type of weight are we losing? Some of that's going to come from fat and some of that's going to come from muscle because muscle is very expensive. And we want to make sure while someone's on their weight loss journey that we keep their metabolism very robust because otherwise what happens is a lot of times if we're only on a GLP, we just have to keep increasing the dose to get your body to respond in order to get that weight loss. But if we add a growth hormone peptide, such as Sermorelin, we're able to keep that dose lower and keep your metabolism a lot more robust because specifically like the primary, secondary, and tertiary modes of action is what it's going to do is that growth hormone is going to help your body with lean muscle mass. It's going to help your body get into, you know, stages of deeper stages of sleep, which we lose as well too as we age. And sleep is super and super important for regulating that appetite. So it's going to act as another appetite regulator as well as the recovery aspect of it because it's going to balance more like that leptin ghrelin because you're getting more restorative sleep. And then it's also going to bring down some of that systemic inflammation because this is what happens sometimes too is people will go on these GLPs and because you have so much systemic inflammation, those fat cells can literally not slice until you bring down that inflammation. So your body's like in this state where it's frozen until we bring down that inflammation and then your body can actually like break down those fat cells. So it's like a multifactorial approach with being able to add these growth hormone secretagogues to like a GLP stack because again, you're not having to increase the dose as much and your body's actually like hanging on to muscle. So when you reach your targeted weight loss, you're able to, titrate off and you don't have a rebound effect.
Mm. Oh, I love that. Can you share with us how taking Sermorelin differs from injecting human growth hormone directly or taking growth hormone?
Yeah.
How does it differ?
Well, it's kind of like taking it's kind of like taking pure testosterone or taking something that's going to support your body's natural production of testosterone. So if you take human growth hormone, like it's going to work because you're taking straight growth hormone. However, there are a few downsides to that. Your body is going to become dependent on that growth hormone because you're down regulating your body's own production of its own endogenous production of growth hormone. And then we'll start to see like a decrease in the receptors as well too. So it's just like this compounding effect where your body's producing less receptors, your body's producing less receptors. It's better to take something that's going to increase your own endogenous production because then your body is not becoming dependent on that. If you take human growth hormone, there all right, so there are a couple things. There are a few cases where it's like you can low dose it for like longevity, but if you're taking like the higher doses, again, your body's going to become dependent on it for a long time. And there's other unintended side effects because your body can't regulate it. So like we can see like organ growth and uncontrolled growth in different ways. If you're taking Sermorelin, which is going to help balance your body's natural production, you and we could both be on Sermorelin, and it's going to give me a different amount than it's going to give you a different amount because it's working on my body's physiology and it's working on your body's physiology. So one, we're not building up dependence, we're not causing uncontrolled growth, and we're not going to these super physiological levels. So there's way less contraindications and side effects. So it's just like way more safer of a product.
I love that. So it's I guess what you were, just to reiterate what you were saying, when you take growth hormone and you stop, your body's become dependent on it and it stops producing its own growth hormones, essentially,
Yeah,
right?
you're
For
going
the
to feel
most
like
part. However, you don't really get that with the Sermorelin.
yeah, you're going to feel like a major dip, and then it's going to have to like work its way back up to getting to baseline. But evidently, yes.
All right. So, can you also share with us what the benefits of combining Sermorelin with GLPs for long-term metabolic health and body composition? You touched on muscle. Does it
Well,
also help with lipolysis, fat burning, and other long-term effects? And
yeah.
also,
So,
while you're answering that question, maybe you could touch on how long you have to be on this medication to see the benefits. If you could touch on that as well.
yeah. So again, combining it, let's say like someone's combining it with the GLP and they're on like a mid to higher dose. Again, that's going to partition more of the weight loss towards fat. So you're going to increase lipolysis. So you're going to increase like more fat breakdown in that initial set. And then if you reach that goal, and now we're shifting you over to more of like a longevity protocol where we're microdosing the GLPs, we can still keep it in the growth hormone secretagogue to help your body continue to build more muscle, improve levels of deep sleep, control that inflammation. And so it's just going to help make your metabolism a lot more robust and a lot more resilient. That's always like what I'm trying to build up with patients is because like life is not perfect and you need to be resilient. And what I mean by resilient, you need to have like that metabolic flexibility because again, we talked about earlier, like metabolic disease, metabolic dysfunction, it first starts in the muscle. So if we can like restart your body's ability to rebuild good quality lean muscle, it's going to make your body a lot more resilient in terms of its ability to suck up glucose, leading to less inflammation, leading to less immune system dysfunction, leading to less types of like other types of diseases that are linked to that, whether it's like neurological, autoimmune, and so forth. So it's just like a great overall, again, peptide that I use on a normal basis typically like the cycles for these is anywhere from like 8 to 12 weeks. Then you're taking like 4 to 8 weeks off, and then you can cycle back on it continuously.
Now, I don't know if you know this answer, and it's okay if you don't. But from everything I know, women have more adipose fat than men do. And if Sermorelin helps and impacts fat and lipolysis, do you know if have you read any studies of how Sermorelin would affect men versus women, especially as it relates to human growth hormone?
Right. That's going to be more of like balancing your hormones because you have to control for cortisol and you have to control for estrogen dominance because that dictates on like where your body is actually storing fat.
Hmm.
So if someone is having chronically excess cortisol, it's really, really hard to break down that belly fat because again, one, your body's not going to release it. And even if you're breaking it down, your body's putting just as much more there. So first we have to control for cortisol. If it's stored in other places, we need to control for estrogen and then to give the body an advantage. So in terms of how it works differently in men and women, again, it really just depends on the case because honestly, I don't look at like the gender. I'm always taking the individual into consideration of like what other things they might be incorporating or doing because each person presents differently and each person has just like a little bit of an effect, which is nice because again, it's like a unisex peptide. Like you don't have to worry about like just using this one for men or just using this one for women. It really is like a unisex peptide.
I saw a comment come in. Let's get on and talk about the thrill pill. Um, but just one last question on Sermorelin, because I think it's important and I
Yes.
want to know if I'm going to commit to this thing, I want to see results and I want to see results that show on my body, not to be vain, but on the outside as well. So how long before we see results and what kind of results can we expect? Like more muscle
Yeah.
definition, like a snatched body? What can we expect?
Again, this all depends on the person, like where they're at, like where your baseline's at, what other lifestyle factors you have. I always say it's good to always plan for around 2 to 3 cycles minimum to see like change within your body. Some people they're going to see change within like that first cycle. Some people too. Some people it takes that last cycle to kind of like break through that last part of that dam to get everything else to come through. So I always err on the side of like 2 to 3 for in most cases.
I saw someone just
And when
write,
I'm talking about 12 weeks,
okay, 12 weeks per cycle. Yeah, I saw someone that said my
8 to
sleep is
12 weeks,
incredible. 8 to 12 weeks. Someone just wrote, Chrissy
8
wrote,
to 12.
okay. Chrissy just wrote, my sleep is incredible, and I will vouch for that. It has tremendous impact on sleep. So I
And
highly,
so it too is interesting because it's like if you take it before bed, it's going to improve sleep. But if you take it first thing in the morning before the workout, wow, like your workouts are incredible. So it doesn't make you sleepy if you take it in the morning. It's going based on your body circadian rhythm. So it's really cool. So I'll do like a mix of where I'll take it at night to help improve levels of sleep and recovery, but then I'll also take it first thing in the morning right before the workout because like you feel the difference.
yeah, Leanne just wrote, I take half in the morning, half in the afternoon. So
There you go.
Okay, let's get on. I
Yeah.
know why all of you are here. Let's talk about the thrill pill, everyone. Okay, so what is the thrill pill? It's a 3-in-1. It's oxytocin, it's PT-141, and it's Tadalafil. So, Dr. Wagner, tell us about the thrill pill. Break it down by each individual component. So tell us what's the thrill pill all about? What's the excitement, pun intended, around the thrill pill?
I mean, a lot of play on words right there, but yeah, the thrill pill. So I'll start just like with each component. I'll kind of explain the mechanism, what they're working on, because it is honestly a really unique combo. They're all great by themselves, but when you actually combine them together, you kind of like hitting a grand slam in a way. Like because we're hitting all the different pathways. So like for example, PT141. This one is more of like it enhances, sexual desire, motivation, like via the central nervous system. So like PT141, it specifically acts on the melanocortin receptors and specifically targeting like the MC3R and the MC4R in the hypothalamus. So this is working within the brain. So like these receptors basically regulate sexual behavior, arousal, and reward. So that's really what we're working on with that PT141. So unlike a PDE5 inhibitor, which is a Tadalafil, which is how like most of like Cialis and all those work through like blood flow. PT141 actually like bypasses the vascular system and stimulates the brain arousal center directly. So benefits of this one is increased sexual desire in men and women. So again, it's like a unisex peptide. It's going to enhance motivation, mood, and social energy. And then it actually supports dopaminergic tone because that's really, really important because some people are so dopaminergic driven that we got to almost like bring back the tone of that system, which is key for confidence and drive. So like we're fixing a lot of these systems and it's non-hormonal and it's safe use along, other hormonal therapies, whether someone's on testosterone, estrogen, or progesterone. So super, super safe. Um, I've used this one by itself. I've never used it in like this combo.
But can you share with everyone because we had this conversation? And by the way, just so you all know, it's a troche, and maybe Dr. Wagner, before we continue, maybe you could explain to everyone what a troche is, and just so you all know, as far as protocol goes, it's as needed. Do not exceed one troche per 24 hours, and do not exceed 8 pills per month. That's the average. That's the protocol. But can you share with everyone what a troche is? Because we have PT141, but it's an injection. You have to inject it 4 hours before
Mhm.
intimacy or performance. This one you could take 20 minutes before performance. But yes, let's talk about what is a troche, and then we could talk about PT141 and how
So
you use it.
So troche, it's basically like a square and it's scored into four pieces and it's actually like a sublingual delivery system for rapid absorption. So you just take like one piece of that troche, like put it under your tongue and it rapidly dissolves and it gets through the oral mucosis. So it's basically like fast acting. That's where she's talking about 20 minutes, take it, it's going to onset, and you're going to feel the effects of it because it's bypassing digestion, it's bypassing first pass of liver because it's being absorbed through that oral mucosa. So that's basically like what a troche is.
Thank you. Carly said, sign me up. Yes, girl. Um, Dr. Wagner, can you mention to everyone how and why you use PT141?
How and why I use PT.
Oh, but you use it for bodybuilding, right? That's what you
No, no,
mentioned.
no, no. PT141 you don't use for bodybuilding at all. No,
No.
no,
Okay, okay.
no.
So is it oxytocin? Which one was the one that you used?
Yeah, that's the other one.
Okay.
I've only used
Yeah.
PT141. I was curious and I didn't know what it would do, so I just kind of
Oh,
took
well, you know what they say about curiosity and the
it.
cat.
No, the other ones have more spillover effects into other systems and uses. So I think what you're referring to is more of like the oxytocin into Tadalafil. So, people classically know oxytocin as, the bonding hormone. But it's a neuropeptide. It's actually produced in the hypothalamus as well too. And so it acts on the oxytocin receptors in the brain and body, promoting, emotional bonding. And actually, this is a really cool one, parasympathetic activity. So this is where it's going to help actually people who are like high cortisol driven to actually bring down that cortisol because it's actually going to balance that parasympathetic sympathetic system because it actually modulates the HPA axis, lowering stress by reducing again cortisol and helping vagal tone. So again, we talked about dopaminergic tone with PT141, and we talked about improving vagal tone with oxytocin right there. So again, this is going to facilitate emotional closeness and bonding. It's going to reduce social anxiety and emotional reactivity. So if you just feel like your emotions are just kind of like wound up, it's going to kind of calm that down and
Mhm.
promote parasympathetic dominance. So it's going to improve digestion, sleep, hormone balance. And then because again, we're decreasing that cortisol, it can enhance fat loss by reducing appetite and supporting metabolic regulation. So again, there are some spillover effects from oxytocin. And actually some people in the bodybuilding space will use oxytocin as a way for body composition. So there are other uses for that. So I think that's the one that you were
Oh,
referring
that's the
to.
one. Okay,
That's
sorry.
the one you're referring to in the body.
Well, oxytocin is also the hormone that mothers produce when they're breastfeeding children. It's what you produce, when it's the bonding hormone, like you mentioned. So of course it has other effects.
You release oxytocin when you give someone a hug. Like we release oxytocin in so many different ways throughout our life, and it's a very important hormone. So I think it's really cool to kind of see it in this product.
That's awesome. It's a 3-in-1. It's like you got connection, you've got blood flow, and then you have the mental stimulation part of it. I'm like, sign me up. I can't wait. Um, all right. So how quickly we discussed how quickly it takes into effect, but how long does it last from everything that you know?
Again, that depends on the individual on how fast like you metabolize things. Um, it could last anywhere from 6 to 12 hours. Like Tadalafil itself can last up to
All night,
36.
guys.
Oh, so that's why like you don't have to dose these things. I wouldn't dose these things twice within a 24-hour period. Because again, whenever you mix some things together, you do any type of like pharmacology where we're adding different things, again, we're always amplifying the effects because then the last product that we're adding in there is Tadalafil, and most people know it as Cialis, which again, Tadalafil is a PD5 inhibitor. So this is going to increase nitric oxide activity. It's a vasodilator. You gave me some other word that it was a decongester. I can't remember what you told.
Oh, a vasocongester.
Vasocongester, which leads to vasodilation. So we're going to have more relaxation. So we're going to have more nitric oxide throughout the system. So this is like the typical, if you see like a sexual enhancement type of treatment, most people are taking like the Tadalafil, the Cialis. So it's only working on the blood flow, but blood flow is typically only one. If someone is having like erectile dysfunction, again, blood flow is only one part of it. They could actually be having some congestive heart failure though too, so they want to get that checked out as well. So that could be like MI is definitely like an indicator for what is going on. So again, we're hitting the central nervous system, we're hitting the blood flow, we're hitting intimacy with all three of these things. So definitely like if someone is starting out with this, you want to start out with like less is more because all these are going to amplify those effects. And you don't know if yours is more like blood flow related, central nervous system, or you just have like a hard time bonding and you're so sympathetic dominant that you can't get into that parasympathetic state. So, but Tadalafil, I mean, it's a great supplement not only for that, but this is like in the gym world, this is one of the biggest like pre-workouts that most guys take. Whether it's like 5 to 10 milligrams, because it does get that vasodilation, you're getting a lot more blood flow to the muscles, and the pump is just it's amazing after the
Waiting.
pump in the
Now we
body,
know.
the muscle.
Oh
Yeah,
wow, those gym guys. Now we know. Sorry, you may have mentioned this, but how does Cialis Tadalafil differ from Sildenafil, which is Viagra? How do the two are
I think
different?
it's just more of like the ester of how long it's acting. Hmm.
We're having fun with this conversation, okay? I'm reading some of the comments and they're like, we should be more like adults. But this is what I love about this is that both men and women can use
Yeah.
it and see results. do men see different types of results than women? What can we expect as women versus men?
Well, I can only speak from like the man side of this conversation. Personally, it works. It definitely works. From the women's side, I think PT141 is what helps women the most. I think with men, it's more of like the blood flow issue in most cases, maybe a little bonding, maybe a little bit of the central nervous system. I think with women, it's more of the central nervous system issue. So they're going to feel like a stronger effect on the central nervous system because that's mainly what it's balancing out. But again, everyone is so different. It's hard to really say. So again, that's where I always say start out slow, start out low, give yourself time, give yourself breaks in between, see how your body responds. Like definitely don't like double or triple dose this. These are definitely like things that you don't want to run into issues with because there are some unpleasant like side effects for some people in small cases. It can potentially cause like nausea and headaches.
Mhm.
And then also like you can have like emotional sensitivity if you're very sensitive to oxytocin. And then you also don't recommend combining these things with alcohol ever, but especially like the first time trying it. Like do this sober. Like don't have anything else in the system because that's how you do a controlled study. In a controlled study, you're only adding one thing. If you're adding all these other things, explicit or non-explicit things into the whatever the event that you're doing, you don't really know how these things are interacting within your system because again, we're using Tadalafil, so whatever else you're taking, it's going to potentiate that because we're increasing the amount of blood flow. So just use caution and safety whenever trying something new because again, this is like a triple product in one, so they all like enhance each other, and you don't know how your body's going to respond. Some people might need a higher dose, some people might need a medium dose, some people might need a lower dose. So like
Yeah,
allow yourself to experiment with it for at least like those first couple weeks.
yeah, I know that PT141 is also called the Barbie peptide because it gives you a slight tan and it also helps some people, it reduces their appetite. Can you just give a little, I think you may have shared before the history of PT141 because it is FDA approved for female sexual dysfunction, right? Um, can you, it's known as bremelanotide. Can you share the history and the background of PT141?
Oh man, I actually don't know the history of it that well. So that's interesting.
Okay, I'll tell you. It was a scientist. I think he was out of Australia. He was trying to give himself a tan. And so because it works on the melanocyte receptors, sorry, I know they and then he found that the side effects of it was the sexual arousal and also the reduction of appetite. So that's just a little background on
Yeah,
PT141.
I almost thought you were referring to like melanotan 2 because again, that's another melanocortin receptor 1, which is also a carryover from tanning and also like sexual wellness as well too. So
Right. This is like a derivative of that, if you
got
may.
it, got
Yeah.
it.
Um, so we talked about side effects. Can you talk to us about what other peptides this can or can't be combined with? Can we take this with GLP-1s? Can we take this with NAD? Can we combine this treatment with anything else? If we're on other treatments, can it be combined?
Yeah, so in terms of like peptides, you're pretty safe in terms of like other peptides you can add with this. So you can increase like energy and drive if you add NAD to this. You can increase recovery if you add BPC to this. You can increase neuroregeneration if we add what we were talking about, the Sermorelin to this as well too. So there's like different categories of where you can take this. So it's really safe mixing with the peptides. I'm just not a fan of mixing it with other explicit substances,
Got it. Got it.
alcohol or whatever else you want to mix it with. Because again, that's where you get a lot of the interactions with. But again, NAD great for increasing that energy, BPC great for increasing that recovery because again, the tadalafil is going to get more blood flow to the area. BPC is going to help with the healing, and then the neuroregeneration with that growth hormone peptide. So in terms of peptides, you're really safe.
Okay. Does anyone have questions? If you do, please post it in the chat. Dr. Wagner, is there anything else you'd like to share with us about the Thrill Pill? Anything else that we should know before I announce when we're going to drop it and the pricing and all the additional information? Is there anything else you'd like to share?
Yeah, again, these are very powerful compounds. So again, just take it slow, give it time. Don't really mix it with anything else other than other peptides when you're first trying it. And yeah, that's really about it. I think it's a pretty cool combo. Like I said, I've never taken them in the combo before. I've used them all individually with good effects. The tadalafil for the pre-workout, the oxytocin for the body composition, but never together. So I'm interested to hear people's feedback for sure.
Yeah, I just had one person post. The Tadalafil helps with the emotional side for women. Oh, that's a question. Does Tadalafil help with the emotional side for women? No, it's mainly for the blood flow, right? Because women have also blood, and I don't know if you guys remember a couple weeks ago we had someone else on that did the training that said it takes women 30 minutes to get blood flow in that region where it takes men just a couple minutes. So 20 minutes, 30 minutes is a good time, I would say, right? Before to make sure that you get full blood flow in that region. Is that safe to say?
Safe to say. Safe to
Yes.
say.
Is that what he said? Yes. Okay. And then we have another question. Can I take PT 141 while postpartum?
Um, Postpartum should be fine. Again, just always start low and slow with that. If your body's a little bit more sensitive at that stage, but it's not going to really like hurt you because again, it's going to help with dopaminergic tone. So a lot of these things are helping to tone the body. When I say tone, it's another way of saying like balance. If something's like hyperactive, it's going to help bring that down. If it's hypo, it's going to bring that up. So it could be something good for you to take. But that's where, again, you just have to kind of like try it out with your body, start low, work your way up, and just kind of see how you feel. Because some people, it might be like the magic bullet. For other people, they might not notice a difference. But in terms of can you take it, I would say yes.
Someone just posted, if you accidentally slip and you take this with alcohol, is it going to hurt anything?
I mean, it's not going to hurt you, but you can't get like an accurate read of how your body is actually responding. I'm all about getting like hard data of how your body is responding to these things in the beginning. That way, like going forward, what your baseline is, how your body responds, as opposed to, oh, I tried this thing, I didn't really do it in a controlled setting, so maybe it worked, maybe it didn't. So it's like very like hit or miss, rather than if you're able to dial it in, then you're able to make the changes easier. I'm just wanting to get it.
Loving, this has been one of the most fun chats we've had. I think in any of our trainings. And although Dr. Wagner, we really appreciate this training, I think, guys, this is one that you guys have to try for yourself. And the training is done on the job. So you
It's
guys
nice.
just try it out for yourself and let us know. But no, this has been great. Thank you for sharing the science and the background on this. The Thrill Pill is dropping April 1st, just in time for April Fools. So you guys go fool around. And it's coming in at a price of 169. We had to do it. Just in time for April Fools. So 1669. I will deliver all the the PB information on another training call. But it was funny because we were actually supposed to have it at a different price point. I was like, Janet, we've got to make 169 work. She goes, You're the only person I know that's willing to sacrifice profit for a number. I was like, yes. So it's coming April Fool's in just a couple more days. We're going to drop the thrill pill. If you guys have any question, we're going to do another training with the pharmacist on Wednesday. So be sure to catch that. And Dr. Wagner, as always, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming on, educating our community. We love you. We appreciate you. Thank you so much. And to all of you, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this community. It's so special. We look forward to these Thursday nights. Thank you all for being here and have a wonderful, wonderful night, everyone. Thank you. Mwah. Good night.